Sparks that I don't remember. Hold and let it shine. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away.
Hello, dear friends of Kabala International. We are once again with Mario Sabán.
How are you, Nacho?
Very good. Very good, Mario. Nice to be here with you again. This time we are going to talk about desire, the essential function that desire has in the existential context, and also as energy from a cosmogonic point of view. Why not?
Look, the Zohar, one of the great books of the Kabbalah, says that the foundation of the universe is desire. And what does this mean? It means that we have something, we have a motor. Notice that even this desire in the tree of life, we place it in the dimension of Keter, in the highest dimension. And there is always a relationship between desire and will. That is, why do we have the will to get up in the morning? Because, well, somebody might say, well, because the function of sleep is over and we have to get up inexorably. But something tells us that we want to be creative. Something tells us that we can make something out of our existence. Something tells us... And historically, in all civilizations, this has happened, hasn't it? In all civilizations, you see people trying to build houses, trying to improve the lives of their children. Only in the material field you realize that there is a kind of solution, we could say in principle, to the basic needs of the people. But then when the person has those basic needs covered, something is always missing. He always goes out for some reason. He always has an impulse. And this impulse is desire, which is structural to the reality of the universe. Now, how do we know that desire is structural? Because in Kabbalah it is analyzed that the universe is like a big vessel that receives energy. In Hebrew we call the container kli. So if you think about it and say, well, what is this table designed for? This table is designed to put elements on top of the table. It means that it is designed to receive. Why is the glass designed to receive water or to receive some liquid? And you start thinking and you say, is the car designed to receive people? You start to think that they are all receiving systems. The chair is a system where we sit to be receiving something. The glass is receiving liquid. The table is receiving... You start to think that the functions have to do with a receptive character, where there is a vacuum that receives something that comes from outside. And that's the creation of the universe. The universe is structured as a big vessel that wants to receive. So the interesting thing is that the desire is activated in a bidirectional situation where the universe is born as a great desire to receive, and where the infinite outside the universe is activated, a great power of giving. And then the desire to receive appears, which we call feminine, right? Feminine potency in the Kabbalah. And the desire to give, which in the Kabbalah we call masculine potency. And then, in the creation of the universe, we already see that the universe desires to receive, and the infinite that is outside the universe desires to give. And there is a male-female relationship, and there is a desire to give and to receive. So all of this is structured in desire. And we, within the universe, when we give love and receive love, we are in that situation. When we have a friend and we give love and the friend gives love to us, we also have a situation of desire to give and receive. So if you think about it, in our life, it is a constant desire to be exchanging, in a way, in a permanent flow. The other wishes to receive a book from me, and I wish to write that book. Then, something makes me have the desire to write that book. So, you ask me, why do you have the desire to write that book? Because I need that book as a container of information. And I need it. And it's a need where I find the channel of writing a book, the desire for me to receive information, and the desire to give information. And the reader, whether or not he wants to read the book, but he is also as a recipient of information. So you begin to realize that music is an information system, that writing is an information system, and that we are being moved by inner desires. That is, there is a desire to be receiving that information as receivers, but also as givers. That is, we operate as the infinite that gives and as the universe that receives. We operate with masculine energy because we want to help the other. If a brother or a relative or a student speaks to us, if we have the capacity to give, we give. Of course, when we withhold, we are creating an imbalance in the universe. But if it is in our hands to give, we can give. And then we also have the capacity to receive. So we are permanently in a, I would say, situation of permanent desire, both giving and receiving. And those of us who understand that we are instruments of this giving and receiving operate very well within reality. Now come ideologies that begin to attack desire. For example, they say desire always leads us to imbalance. If someone desires, people will become unbalanced from the desires they have. No. People do not become unbalanced from the desires they have. People become unbalanced because they don't channel desire well. It is not desire that is the source of imbalance. It is the mismanagement of desire. So, here we have to be very clear from the spirituality of Kabbalah. Desire is not bad. On the contrary, desire is part of the universe. Desire is there because it is good. Desire is very good. Only if it is badly channeled, then I can desire things that are wrong, because desire is badly channeled. But desire is very nice. And to wish to have a bigger house, someone who has a smaller house, also material desire is also welcome. I mean, also, if you can live better, also this is of course accepted from the Kabbalah and recognized in the universe more than accepted, because it is not a belief system that is accepted, it is a recognition of reality. So what Kabbalah is doing is, look, you can fulfill your desires, channel them as best you can. Of course, then we come to the great desire for infinity, the greater desire, which I would put in another category, not in the desire of being subject to limitation, which is us. We are always controlling when we say channeling desire, because our desires are limited in the field of matter, in the physical field. Then, if you want to talk about the infinite desire, we move on to another subject, because the infinite desire has another nature, completely different from the finite desires in the order of finitude that we live.
Based on what you talk about and what you say about finite desires, and in the context of our reality, there is one thing that I like to think about, which is that depending on how we activate our desire in an altruistic way or in a selfish way, we are also helping a process of ascension or a process of descent of our soul in the process of rectification. So it is very important, the desire itself, but how we activate that desire.
Totally consciousness. In the end, it is the question of consciousness, which is very complicated because it is very difficult to measure it. Let's say, if I want to measure the consciousness of another, it is impossible because the only thing I can measure are the acts, not the consciousness. So there is an inner work where one can perceive, not measure, but can perceive the state of consciousness that one has in principle independently of the material actions, because it is an inner state, and then if the material actions accompany. Because when the material actions do not accompany, there can be a dissociation between a theoretical idea of my spiritual level with my real spiritual level. This happens a lot, unfortunately, in many teachers. Not only in Kabbalah, but worldwide. People who are within spirituality, where one cannot be conscious, and it surely happens to me also in many aspects that I may not be able to control or see, where situations that I thought did not exist escape in reality. That is to say, one believes that one is refined at one point, and then in reality one realizes that one is not refined at this point. That this idea of refinement was a kind of self-deception.
Based on what you were saying previously about this need to give, or this desire to give as a masculine energy, to put it in a way, this desire to receive as a feminine energy. In that copulation between both energies, we have the fruit that is the creation of the age, the creation of consciousness.
Of course, consciousness. What happens is that, of course, we have, as you say, that fruit between the left and the right, the will to receive. And at one point, I would say that there is a point, I would say, practically, of balance in sharing. At one point, I no longer know who is giving and who is receiving. This can be seen in a couple relationship clearly at all levels, which is a very close relationship, and especially many times in the physical field, in sexual relations within the couple, where nobody knows anymore who is giving and who is receiving because you are giving and receiving at the same time. And that would be like the highest dynamic that we would have to have in all relationships in our reality. That is, to get to a point where we are giving and receiving naturally, without calculation, in a way. What happens is that what we have to take into account in order not to give more and not to receive more is a very strong self-knowledge of your structure, because there you can somehow filter pride, an uncontrolled ego in wanting more, and that wanting more already denatures the true sense that the person has, that the soul has. So here we must be very careful not to confuse the natural desire for the search for some form of divine revelation with an ambition in the field of matter. That is to say, what you cannot do is in the tree of life, the Tiferet Keter channel, that you go towards the infinite, do it the other way around. The Tiferet channel to Malhut, Tiferet and Azot Malhut, there is no infinity there. People see infinity as backwards. They go to material consumption like they are going to find the
If the soul
Ein
consumes
Sof.
material
In
and buys
material
everything that
consumption,
counts, then it is a
you buy
cause.
everything you find. So, I think infinite desire is misdirected. We are directing infinite desire to the field of matter, and matter does not give more of itself, because infinite desire must be directed elsewhere. It has to be directed upwards, not downwards. And I think we live a little bit in that confusion. That is to say, people believe that they go to the infinity of consumption, and in the infinity of consumption, they find nothing. They find despair because undoubtedly there is no answer there. But the soul does feel infinity. That is to say, it is curious. This displacement that one makes towards matter is a displacement that in its origin is not a negative cause. The cause is real because the infinite desire exists. It is misdirected towards matter. But if one directs it well in the sense of inner growth, meditation, reading books, etc., then one can redefine that desire. Then you can redefine that infinite desire to go to the infinity of the process and not be always returning to the superficial.
You cannot project an infinite desire towards something that has limits.
Totally.
Because it destroys.
But we live in a paradoxical situation, because we live in a limited subjectivity with a void that, although it is limited in its structure by definition, because if we are limited, our void is also limited, there is a point of infinite power within the void, because the void receives and gives. When you give one, you receive one, and when you give one, you get one. Economists know this very well because it is what is called the movement of the currency, the acceleration of the currency. Well, the same thing happens at the spiritual level. That is, I receive one, I give one, I receive one, I give one, I receive one, I give one. At the end of the day, I received 100 and I gave 100. But the question is, my capacity was only to receive one. But as soon as I gave one, my capacity increased again. It means that actually, as an instrument of energy passage, we are infinite. That is, we are finite in the space-time structure of receiving one. But as soon as we gave one, we have become infinite. This means that infinity is not so much given to me by receiving, it is given to me by giving, because it is what empties me of what is received. So, what we learn in Kabbalah is that if I give and receive at a high speed, what I am doing is creating and creating. I am creating more and more because creation is not withholding energy. Creation is seeing how that energy is going to be invested in giving. So it happens that the more empty I am and the more energy flow I let go, I actually feel that I grow more because I am not holding energy. What does it do when the ego is out of control, is out of balance? It stops the incoming energy. And the person keeps that one. He received one, he kept one. So of course when the ego is out of control, there is this one, because you have not emptied yourself. The inability to emptying that many of us have, that is because we are all in the same nature, causes us to then have a growth problem because we are kind of filled up in some way with ourselves.
Saturated.
It is a level of saturation, so we have to empty ourselves. I believe that at all times we have to be emptying ourselves. I know it is not so simple because emptying ourselves implies a change of identity. Emptying is not that I am the same when I receive and give, because in that passage of energy there is a change, a metabolization. There is a change, a metabolization in me that makes me also integrate energy. Not all the energy immediately passes. Something is left in me that goes into me. So, there what is happening is a change of identity. So there are many people, why don't they empty? First, they don't empty because they have the idea that being full is the goal of life, which is a problem. And second, because being full of oneself makes the identity fixed on that fullness. Of course, it is very difficult to have an identity that permanently allows emptying because you are actually destroying all your ideas every day. Of course. What is proposed to the person in Kabbalah, in the higher levels of consciousness, is a permanent creative destruction. So, it is a very big effort. The person already wants to read the same newspaper, he wants to have like an organized reality that nothing moves. When in Kabbalah, what we are doing is, look, if you believe that nothing is going to move, the planets and the universe keep moving and you are doing something unnatural. So, to get into the nature of reality, you have to move with nature. So it is not that you move because you are the most vivacious in nature. No, no. One moves because nature moves. And since nature moves, what I am doing is flowing with the energies of nature. Therefore, when I am already flowing with the energies of nature, at no time can I say I am. Ginsberg, one of the great Kabbalists of the 20th and 21st century who lives in Galilee, says, when the person says I am, he no longer knows who he is. When the person doesn't wonder who he is, he knows who he is. What happened here? When the person says I am what? And he defines himself, he is no longer. He is no longer because he has already cut the dynamic. Now, if the person doesn't ask where I am, he knows where he is. He knows where he is. It means where are you? Don't ask, because you don't know where you are. But when you know where you are, you don't wonder where you are, and you know.
Thank you, Mario.